My name is Michelle Chapa, and I am a survivor of violent crime here in Harris County. And this is Jessica Gehring, who has lost her fiance to homicide. And we are the marketing and communicating team for the organization that we're announcing, which is Texas Crime Victims United. We want to first thank Commissioner Ramsey for always being a constant ally for crime victims and the community, and for allowing us to host this here in his facility with all of you fine folks. Before we get started, I do want to take a minute to recognize that this week is National Police Week, and today is Peace Officers Memorial Day. This is a day to honor the brave men and women in law enforcement who have been injured or lost their lives in the line of duty. Your commitment to justice means more than words can say, especially to those of us whose lives have been forever changed by violence. At this time, I'd like to ask everyone to please join me in a moment of silence to remember and reflect on their sacrifice.
Thank you. I want to say thank you to all the law enforcement partners. Thank you for your service, your courage, and your continued commitment to keeping our community safe and always supporting us. We would like to ask the media to reserve questions for the end. We will be available to speak one-on-one then as well. At this time, I would like to introduce our President, Paul Castro.
It is my honor to stand here in front of this distinguished group of people that I wish I didn't know and that we didn't know each other. But we're here today as survivors and victims of violent crime. And I thank you for being here. We're joined today by a number of people who supported us in our efforts to make our community safer. I want to start off by thanking Commissioner Tom Ramsey, who's been so helpful in making sure not only do we have this place to work here today, but he's been integral in the formation of our group and providing us both tactical and emotional support in our efforts. So thank you, Commissioner. From Commissioner Adrian Garcia's office, Precinct 2, is the Executive Director of Communication and Marketing, Scott Spiegel. Thank you. Joining us today is also Mayor Eliza Dutt from Piney Point. Thank you, Mayor, for being here. From District Attorney Sean Tier's office, we have First Assistant DA Chandler Rain. Thank you for being here. And from Crime Stoppers of Houston, their CEO, Rania Mancurios. Have I missed anyone? Because if so, I apologize. This is our first time at trying to do something like this. But thank you all for being here. Thank you all, law enforcement, who are here as support. My name is Paul Castro, and it's my honor to be the president of this small group that's getting started. So on behalf of our growing and determined community here, thank you. I especially want to thank members of the media who are here, who are getting our message out, many of whom have only encountered us in our moments of tragedy. Your presence today matters. Thank you for listening when we are more than just the headlines. Texas Crime Victims United began as something small. It was just some of us sitting on group chats, sending each other messages of support during sad announcements, sad anniversaries, and giving each other advice about how to navigate the very complicated judicial system we are unwilling participants in. And then slowly we started figuring out we were all connected in some way. And we started making our groups bigger and starting supporting each other in different ways. And as we started communicating, what we started realizing is our system is broken. And that broken system is breaking us. We began speaking openly about our frustrations, trying to educate those who are in the system and those who are our elected leaders. Not just with the legal process, but with the way that even, in some cases, organizations misrepresent themselves and present themselves to the community as advocates for justice and safety. What they were really doing is pushing an agenda that centered criminals and not victims. Those groups co-opt our pain and exploit our language, and use our tragedies to further causes that protect offenders. These anti-incarcerationists are out there harming the community and not protecting the innocent. So let me be clear about who we are. We are survivors. We are members of grieving families. We are people who've seen up close what happens when violent offenders are given second, third, and fourth chances, and innocent lives are cost. We are not here for politics. We are here for change. We are here to fight for a justice system that protects the public, because too often it does not. Texas Crime Victims United exists because we and our families have paid the ultimate price for the system's failures. So today we're using our voices to advocate for others, for those who still believe the system is working because they have not been forced to experience what we have. We are here to advocate for people who will never know that they are benefiting from our work. We are hopeful that one day, as we get better, our society will be better for it. Our top priority is simple: reducing violent crime. We believe that begins with real accountability, especially when it comes to fixing the broken bail bond system. We know that too often repeat violent offenders are being released again and again, only to harm more people, under this idea that it is compassionate. It is not. We are also shining a light on activist judges who consistently release violent repeat offenders while they await trial and commit more offenses, even when it puts families and neighbors at risk. We reject the tired excuses offered by the anti-incarcerationist advocates. Safety should never be a partisan issue, and we're asking Democrats and Republicans to join us today in making this happen. We are making progress. Our voices are being heard. This year, bail bond reform bills were passed out of the House Committee on Criminal Jurisprudence with bipartisan support, a 10-1 vote. It was remarkable. This is a powerful step forward. Many members here testified in front of the House subcommittee, and we were there for 10, 12 hours? And we were there. We spoke on behalf of our community. And that powerful testimony helped lawmakers in Austin understand the human cost of policy failures. So we will not stop. We will not be silent. And we will not accept a justice system that puts offenders over victims. Together, we ask you to join us in making Texas a safe community, where safety is not a privilege, it's a promise. Thank you.
Hola, buenas tardes. Estamos aquí porque hoy tenemos la oportunidad de tener esta nueva organización. Esta organización se llama Texas Victims United. Traducido en español quiere decir Víctimas del Crimen Unidas. Esto empezó como algo muy humilde. Empezó porque teníamos familias que estaban unidas con situaciones tan difíciles y buscábamos un apoyo entre nosotros. Afortunadamente nos dimos cuenta que hay muchas familias que están pasando por lo mismo, y es por eso que hoy día empezamos esta organización para tratar de no solamente dar educación, pero organizarnos para que siempre haya las voces de las víctimas, no solamente en Austin, en Commissioner's Court, pero también en City Council. Queremos, si las personas que nos representan no nos escuchan nuestras voces, entonces ellos no saben lo que está pasando, no conocen nuestras historias. Aquí es un número y unas personas, no son muchas, pero hay cientos de personas que tenemos que representar, porque sus historias nunca han llegado a los aires de las televisiones, a los oídos de las personas que nos representan, y por eso estamos aquí. Nosotros creemos que tenemos que caminar por los caminos correctos, no importa si eso es popular o no. La gente honrada y trabajadora necesita representación, y por eso estamos aquí para representarlos. Y la gente que ha sufrido un tipo de abuso, está ahorita caminando por la justicia criminal, queremos que ustedes sepan que no están solos, y aquí tenemos gente aquí que también están pasando por lo mismo. Le agradecemos su tiempo y muchas gracias.
At this time, I'm going to introduce our members that are going to speak here, and then we'll do a full introduction of everybody. But I want to first welcome up Chuck Cook, and then Amy Castillo, and then Tricia Valentine. Go ahead.
Thanks, Michelle, and thank you guys for being here today. I'm here, and some of you may know my story. But my mom, Rosalie Cook, was 80 years old, and 5 years ago, while she was leaving a Walgreens, she was stabbed by a career criminal who had 67 prior convictions and was out on 2 PR bonds. She was parked in a handicapped spot, not 5 feet from the door, couldn't even make it to her car before he met her, stabbed her, because he wanted her purse in her car. And so, as you can imagine, that made me angry. And anger can do a couple of things, but one of the things it can do, it can cause you to act, and that's what I chose to do. I'm a founding member of Stop Houston Murders PAC, who our goal is solely to get rid of activist judges, but also was happy to join this organization because the scope is a bit broader. Because it is a complicated thing. It isn't only activist judges, but it is bail bonds and an old, antiquated constitutional guarantee that everybody gets bail. And that is only true in this state of Texas. And so one of the things that needs to happen is if, there's a saying that if nothing changes, nothing changes. If we keep doing what we're doing, we'll keep getting what we're getting. And I 100% don't want this to happen to anybody here or anybody else in our community. And so I'm happy to lend my voice and my mom's legacy to this organization and others to help support getting rid of these soft on crime laws, soft on crime judges, and the other things that contribute to the craziness of this society. You see, 5 years ago, it wasn't safe for my mom to go to Walgreens at 10 o'clock in the morning. Come on. So, I'm happy to be here. I'm happy here to lend my voice and represent some of the victims here in this organization. And once again, I do thank you for coming.
Hello. My name is Amy Castillo. My brother's name is Joshua Sandoval. On May 27, 2021, Joshua was followed home and shot in the heart. He went through multiple surgeries for the next 24 hours, but unfortunately nothing could be done to save his life. We were able to sit in the hospital room with him for hours while he was still living on the machines. Holding my unconscious brother's hand, telling him I loved him, and giving him a goodbye kiss changed my life forever. I made a vow to him on his deathbed that I will get him justice, and then we turned off the machines. He passed away at 3:12 on May 28, 2021. He was 28 years old. Since then, one person has been charged with capital murder for murdering my brother. We learned that this defendant was out on multiple bonds in multiple counties. And then we learned that not only was he going to be offered another bond after being charged with Josh's death, he actually posted bond to be home with his family for the holiday. This is when I had enough. This is not justice. This is a failure of our justice system, one that continues to re-victimize grieving families while giving repeat offenders chance after chance to harm. Since my brother's death, I am living up to the vow that I made him. My voice is no longer my own. I now speak for Joshua and all the other voiceless that have been victimized. While I cannot bring Joshua back, I can advocate to stop this from happening to other families. As a member of Texas Crime Victims United, I am committed to fighting for change. This first starts with bail reform for violent crimes. Texans deserve the right to vote for laws that reflect the value of lives, and the right that every citizen has to feel safe. Thank you.
Good afternoon. I'm Tricia Todd, and my daughter Brittany was murdered on June 25th, 2018 by a man out on parole for a violent, aggravated crime. When you saw us walk up here, we probably looked like ordinary people. me, an older woman, who might have her act together. I'm calm, I'm composed, I'm a hospice RN, and I'm a chaplain. People meet me daily and think that I'm solid. What they don't see, what you don't see, is that me and these people, we're the walking wounded. After Brittany was murdered, her killer stole her car. Then he took her phone and he used it to impersonate her. For an entire week, he sent texts to me and my older daughter, pretending to be Brittany. But deep down, I knew it wasn't her, and just 2 days in, I filed a missing persons report. Within a week, I found her car. I learned she had been murdered, and we began a 13-and-a-half-month search for her body. We set up a command center in my dining room. Each day, we chased phone pings, crawling under rat-infested crack houses, trudging through polluted bayous, digging through thickets, and crawling into dumpsters infested with rats and snakes. We'd come home reeking of decomp from the rotting animals we found stashed in plastic bags. After a shower, I would spend sleepless nights searching for Jane Does online. Each morning, I called medical examiners' offices comparing heart-wrenching details to determine if their Jane Doe was my Brittany. We were called out in the middle of the night multiple times to look at bodies that had been dredged from bayous. So the reason I'm on this committee is to spare other families from the nightmare and the trauma that my family endured. We have to get serious about the threat posed by violent criminals walking our streets, people who should have never been granted bond or parole. I am just an average Texas citizen. If it can happen to me, it can happen to you. Thank you.
It doesn't get easier. Even though I've heard these stories before, it doesn't get easier for those of you who are hearing them for the first time. Thank you for being witness to our pain. So Texas Crime Victims United has a simple mission. We want to provide protection and support for fellow crime victims. We want to address the inequities in the criminal justice system and work to level the playing field for crime victims throughout the criminal justice process in Texas. A lot of you may not know this, but the challenge that it is to be a victim is almost impossible to explain to anyone who hasn't gone through it themselves. When you go up here in Harris County, you go up to whatever floor your court is on, and you get out and you're sitting in the hallway, you look across and you realize the person who killed your loved one is just sitting there on their phone, scrolling through, text messages, and they're in a suit, they're not locked up, they're out on bail. Those kinds of things happen nonstop. You take a day off work to go to the trial, and then you find out that a criminal has asked for an extension for whatever reason it's granted, and you have to do it all over again, disregarding the fact that you spent 2 or 3 sleepless nights in anticipation of that court date. That's what all of us have lived through, and it's horrible. So we're here to fight to be a voice for crime victims and level the playing field. We want to take back words like justice from people who are misappropriating it and putting it out there when really what they're asking for is no jails and freedom from consequences. We want to work collaboratively. It is exciting to see people from both Democratic and the Republican parties here today coming together and working to help make our community safer. Safety is not a partisan issue. It's a thing that all of us care for, and it's a thing that all of us should be fighting for together. And I thank you for being here today to make that happen. Anything else?
Now for just a couple of minutes, I'd like to bring up our legislative liaison, Andy Kahn from Crime Stoppers, so he can talk for a minute about what we're doing, trying to get some laws changed for us. So I'll bring him up. Andy, you all guys know him.
Good afternoon. My name is Andy Kahn. I'm Director of Victim Services for Crime Stoppers of Houston. And as Paul alluded to, crime victims are the only unwilling participants in the criminal justice system. Everyone else chose their role: law enforcement, prosecutors, defense attorneys, judges, victim advocates. No one ever said, pick me, pick me. I want to be a victim of a crime. And it's the least we can do is to be looking out for their rights, their due process, and their well-being. I respect the opposition, and I'm going to tell you why. They are organized, they are well-funded, and they show up. This is why this organization is so desperately needed. And examples of during the past legislative session in 2021, Crime Stoppers was, quite frankly, the only entity supporting bail reform legislation. There were over 80 organizations and individuals that were signed up against it. And I respect that because they were there. Now it's our turn. This is why this organization is so desperately needed. So some of the bills that we've been pushing right now, it's kind of like a football game. We're on the 10-yard line. We still got 10 more yards to go. Bail reform legislation is a key priority. Crime Stoppers was at ground zero for looking at individuals who've been charged with murder, who have been repeatedly released on multiple felony bonds or PR bonds. We're the only entity in the country that's actually tracking and documenting this particular peculiar phenomena that we discovered. That's why this organization is so needed, because they went up and testified. And they stayed at a hearing from 8 a.m. until over 10 p.m. at night, patiently waiting their turn. That was on March 18th. 2 days ago, the bill was finally passed out of the committee. We see no downside in allowing Texas voters the ability to decide whether judges should have discretion. And that's a key word. Simply discretion. Is not a mandate, not to grant bond to defendants charged with certain violent crimes. It's not going to be a panacea. Not everyone is all of a sudden going to get put in jail. Each case will be looked at its own merit. Prosecutors will obviously have invaluable input in determining whether or not this particular defendant is a flight risk, a risk to public safety, and a risk to victims. Hopefully, that's going to get voted on by the House this week. If not, guess what? There'll be a special session, and we'll be back again. Other individuals that testified on enhancement of road rage penalties, where a victim doesn't die as a result of being shot in a so-called road rage. We're trying to get that to a first-degree felony. That is also passed the House as well, passed the Senate, so we're waiting on that as well. Yesterday, the bill to create a new offense called jugging, which all of us are quite familiar with that term. Again, we were up there testifying in support of it. All it's waiting for now is a Senate hearing. Crime Stoppers birthed the Audrey's Law, which basically indicates that if an individual is charged with an offense that involves a grooming of a child victim, you will have to register. That's a result of 11-year-old Audrey Cunningham. And as I stated when I testified in front of the House, we're all sick and tired of naming bills after dead kids. But that's the reality. But Audrey will be a catalyst for change, just like so many others up here are a catalyst for change. They don't have to be up here to do this. They're taking time out of their own schedules. Nobody's funding them like some other organizations, and that's why we have the utmost respect for individuals that are willing to make things better for others to come along. There's a mantra that I've always had. I can't go back and change what happened to everybody here, but we try to make things better for others to come along, and you've achieved a lasting legacy. Taking a negative and turning it into positive action for social change, that's what this group is about. So thank you for your time.
Thank you, Andy. I've been around you since I was 13 years old, the first time I saw violent crime happen in my neighborhood, and here we are. I'm not going to say how old I am. It's only been a few years, but we've been at each other. But thank you. Next, I'm going to bring up Leticia Ibarra. She's our treasurer, so she can talk about the funding that we're going to be needing, and I'm going to turn that over to her. Thank you.
Thank you. I am Leticia Ibarra. I am mother of a homicide victim. Again, as Paul mentioned earlier, this started as a small group helping each other out via text or however we get together at meetings. And so we put this group together. We are united. We are ready to fight in memory of our family members. A young man ended my daughter's legacy by ending her life. And here's where I pick it up and take it on, at least for the rest of mine. For those of you who may want to help, there's several ways, but you can see our website. You can either sign up to be a member, help us in the fight. There's also a brand new, beautiful way to donate to us. I will say that every single one of our members are volunteers. We have no employees, and so every single penny that will be raised for this organization goes straight to help accomplish our mission, and that's to make Texas a safer place and to hopefully prevent someone else's Jessica. Thank you.
Okay, I would be remiss if I didn't call out, and I failed to mention earlier, a big person behind a lot of this work is our legal counsel, who keeps reminding us that's interesting and we're not going to do that. And that would be former district attorney and our legal counsel, Kim Ogg. And then on top of that, I want to pay special thanks to Crime Stoppers of Houston. There are people who think that there's all these supports out there for crime victims, and there aren't. There's one organization that spends time, energy, and money on it. And many of the people up here met each other through, it's a group, and I hate to say it, but it's Parents of Murdered Children. And like that's a horrible thing to say that even has to exist, and it has membership that's big and unfortunately growing. And I want to thank Crime Stoppers of Houston for providing facilitated time for people to come together and try to make things better. I spoke with a reporter from the Houston Landing about a story he was doing on Alexis Nungary, and he was like, shouldn't these people be like helping each other out in these other ways, and shouldn't they not be mad? I was like, what are you talking about? Of course they're mad, they're angry, they're furious, and they come here to be with other people who get it, and they can kind of calm their nerves a little bit while they're with someone who loves them. So anyway, Parents of Murdered Children is a real thing, and it's a place where a lot of us came together, and I'm thankful for that. So also want to introduce our team. Marketing coordinator and person who keeps me on task, Michelle Chapa. Y'all met Andy Kahn, our legislative action coordinator. Greg Shaw is not here, but he's part of our organizing committee. Leticia Ibarra, who worked and made miracles happen to get our banking stuff set up. Thank you, Leticia. A quiet and powerful person whose case is still open. His daughter's murder is still open. But Bob Newell, who's our secretary and webmaster. Jessica Gehring, marketing coordinator, and make sure we're streaming everywhere. April Aguirre, who is our membership coordinator. And then you all met Amy Castillo, and I know I'm missing people. Calandrian, welcome. My brain is failing me right now, Caleb. So Melissa. Melissa and Marnie, sorry. I am freezing in front of you guys, and I'm really apologizing right now. Patricia. Oh, Trisha. And Trisha's here. So anyway, sorry, and thank you all for being here today. And we'll open it up for questions.
Not everybody at once.
Well, right now it's very important to send a message to the community members. Your stories are here, the tragedies happen to you guys. You guys never asked to become victims. And it's important that the community they acknowledge what is happening in the city and in the county when it comes about the crime and how crime damage families.
Yeah, so you want me to speak to like the horror of what's happening. So one of the things that a lot of crime victims talk about is this magical belief that a lot of us walk around in, that we're #blessed and that bad things won't happen to you. And how you have to have that. You have to carry that because there's so much crazy stuff that happens. And so what a lot of people do is they walk around with this understanding or this belief that that thing happened to that person for a reason. So there were so many people who reached out to me in the immediate aftermath of my son's death, and they essentially asked, what did you do to deserve that? And it sounded like this. Did you flip the person off? Did you, because it was a road rage incident, you know, what did you do to deserve this? Because they wanted to be able to inoculate themselves from the possibility of it happening to them. And I finally got to a point where I just got rude with people because I don't care anymore about hurting people's feelings if they're going to be rude coming this way. And I just challenge people to say, like, this could definitely happen to you. You know, your worst day could be ahead of you. And what we're here today to do is to raise awareness, not raise fear, but raise a sense of reality that the tragedies that befell us, because the day before it happened, we were okay, right? And then the day happened, and then we're now here. And we will never be the people that we were the day before. And what we're trying to do is stop things from happening. And the thing is, the persons who are benefiting from these changes in policy and law will never know how lucky they are. That's the goal. The goal is that they get to go have happy, productive lives, and they don't have to suffer the way that we've suffered. And that's why we're here.
I have a question. Why are PR bonds offered to people that constantly do the same mistakes? Or why the PR bond is so easy for them to get out?
Yeah, so in looking at this is a very discretionary decision on the part of some judges. And so what we've seen are patterns where a judge, a magistrate who gets the case initially in intake will set a bond of, let's say, $100,000. And the next day the person shows up to be heard in front of a judge, and the judge will say, you know, in the Saab case will be, hey, I didn't do it, I'm innocent. And then the judge will say, oh, yeah, I can't take into account the two times you've been locked up, and I can't take into account the fact that you have 2 outstanding, warrants, and I'm not going to look at any of those things. I'm going to lower your bond to $50,000, $25,000. And I don't know why people make those decisions. I think that there's some realities around, there are a couple of us up here who are on the jail advisory committee for Harris County, where we're trying to advocate for an improved jail system because the current one is absolutely horrible. And I think some judges think, well, I don't want to put a person in there, they're going to come out worse. Okay, you're going to send them out, and you're sending them out into the community where they're going to do the same bad thing. And many of these violent offenders are domestic violence violent offenders. These are people who are beating children, beating their girlfriends, beating their wives. And that's not a thing that a person grows out of. That's a thing they go home, they get angry, they get drunk, they get high, and then they start it all over again. And the misplaced sympathy for the devil is the reason that keeps happening, is they look at the person in front of them, and what they're not looking at is they're not looking at the victims that are the recipients of these violent behaviors. There needs to be an awakening to the reality that there are some bad people out there. Not people who were born into bad circumstances. I was on food stamps when I was a kid. We didn't have a lot of money. We ran the streets, and I've killed exactly the number of people that I've wanted to kill, which is 0. I've robbed as many people as poverty made me rob, 0. So it is insulting to people who are like, oh, well, he's Hispanic and he came from poverty and we need to understand his. No, that is a terrible, terrible way to look at people. We should hold. I've worked in middle schools and at-risk neighborhoods, and those kids don't deserve to be looked at as less than, with lower expectations because of this color of their skin and the amount of money in their parents' bank accounts.
Yes.
They deserve to be treated with the utmost respect, which is to hold them to high expectations every day. And that's what we should be holding our fellow community members to, which is high expectations, not giving people excuses. We should see the dangerous people for who they are. 2% of all criminals do 50% of the crime. Our judges need to understand that, and when they see repeat offenders come in front of them, to identify, you are a habitual offender, you are dangerous, and you need to stay locked up. Yes, you have the right to a bail bond. Your bail bond is $1 jillion. And good luck with that.
Paul, I have a question. What is your message to other media? Because I'm wondering, there's only myself and Univision here. What is your message for media that did not show up today?
Yeah, so my friends at the Houston Chronicle took one example of one person, and when we were in front of the Capitol, they made that person their front page story about how he was, incarcerated, and it was sad. Yeah, that was sad. And none of us asked to be here, right? That person actually had a record, but none of us have criminal records that cause us to deserve to be up here. I would say to them, shame on you for not being here today. You had an option, an invitation to be here. You should have been here, because this story is the story that actually is happening. When you look at the poll results from the University of Houston and you look at the breakouts, what you find is that the Black and Hispanic communities are more upset about crime than their white neighbors. They're more upset about the homeless population that they feel is aggressively making their communities feel less safe. And so this is, it's all misunderstood and it's upside down. My white liberal friends need to remember that they are just as susceptible to crime as anybody else, and and the community needs to hear about our stories as well. Yes, Mario.
How do you answer or deal with those in office that tell you crime is declining and that the current policies are working?
Yeah, so that's a great question. Thank you, Mario. So the question is, what do we do for those in office who are saying, well, crime's getting better, right? And I've had this conversation with some of my good friends. And the answer to that is maybe, right? But it also, when you're in the numerator of that equation, right? So let's say it's 100 out of 10,000 people are going to be victimized by violent crime. If you're the 101st person, okay. But if you're the 99th person, if you're in the numerator of that equation, it doesn't matter, right? And so what we know is there are policies that we could put in place to make our communities safer. But to reject the responsibility for bad policies, bad legislation, bad judicial conduct, and to say, but things are better. That's not measurable up here. None of us, I feel better when the crime rate goes down, but it doesn't bring my son back. And so what I remind people of is a simple fact, and that is it can get better, right? It can get better. So we've reduced poverty in the United States, and poverty exists. It can get better. We've increased literacy rates in the United States, and illiteracy exists. It can get better. And the same response should be given to our legislators when they say, everything is fine. Everything is not fine. As long as we still have in these horrible situations where people who are out on bail are going out reoffending and permanently harming another person, that is an unacceptable thing, and we need to hold people accountable when those things happen. Yes? Leticia? Tricia, sorry.
I have a question. I think I know the answer, and I almost hate to ask it. You said we went out looking. Can you tell us who the we were?
Every morning at 6 a.m., my daughter, myself, and a few friends would put on blue jeans, long sleeve shirts, take a machete. We would take pitchforks. We would take clubs. We would take anything that we could. Because we were literally digging through piles of trash in the third ward. The guy who killed her said he had dismembered her and spread her throughout the city. So those plastic bags full of rotting animals, we had to open, and we had to make sure that that wasn't part of my daughter. Every day for 13 and a half months, I quit my job, I closed my business, I went out and looked. My daughter came in from California. She stayed here 5 months. She'd go back. She'd come back every 6 weeks. My friends would not let me go out and hunt alone. So I had people. Dr. Salvato closed her clinic one day and went out and helped me look for my daughter. So even though I love HPD, I have many friends in HPD, we did the bulk of the work.
So just your family and friends, it wasn't,
Yes. Texas EquiSearch helped us, but you know, they had other cases, so it was a sporadic hit here and there, and I love Texas
and they're
EquiSearch.
also largely volunteer too, right?
They are.
Yeah.
They're great.
There we go.
Thank you for asking.
Can I make a short statement, Paul?
Sure, Bob.
We have a dangerous situation in this county right now. We have a district attorney who believes very much in second chances.
Hey, Bob. We're not going to do that, though.
Okay.
Okay, sorry, and thank you. Yeah.
Is this organization going to track the record of some of these judges who are continually releasing these people under multiple bonds? And are they going to publish the information and make it available once it's compiled on a regular basis?
Great question. So the question is, are we going to start tracking judges and just determining? The answer is yes, and. So, you know, each of us has, you know, jobs, lives, and right now, work like that requires research. We're trying to reach out to some partners who have like MBAs on loan, who can like dig into the files. The reality is a lot of records exist in PDF only, and our county is sometimes slow, if not never turning in Freedom of Information Act requests. And so a lot of data just resides in a almost unreachable space. The county has done a good job of putting together a database that's accessible to the public, but last I checked, it wasn't working. So I'm not sure what exactly is happening there. We need to go back and check, but where we can better track quickly, what's going on. So the objective is, and there's a person who might be willing to help fund this effort, is to be able to dig into the records, find out who it is that's making some of these dangerous decisions, and compile a list where we can say that these are the judges that we support in the upcoming elections. Part of it is also Harris County is essentially a blue county, and it's going to be the responsibility of leadership of the Democratic Party to run quality candidates against people who have demonstrated that they're not aligned with the community. And if the Democratic Party steps up and does that, I think that would be a good thing. And that actually happened in the last 2 year or whatever election, I think a year ago, 24, where some really bad actors got knocked out in the primary. We want that to continue. We want to support that effort. This, again, is a bipartisan effort.
So, person, when she was talking about going, the family was going and engaging, there's a personal investigation, because that was the personal investigation, not by the police department. So when that happens, is that good evidence in court law? I mean, when someone takes a personal,
Oh, can I answer
tell
that?
you this what happened. Is that in court, or it has to be by the police department?
That's an excellent question. So we, in our little dining room, we figured out who murdered my daughter. We compiled our data, and we had micro data. We had excellent data. And we called our detective. He came to our house with his partner. They went through our data. They decided we were correct. They put together a SWAT team, and they went and arrested him. The thing to note is several times our detective would say to us, keep doing what you're doing because you don't have to follow the rules of evidence that we do. But then they could take our data, they could investigate it themselves, and then they could use it. But we did not have to follow rules of evidence.
Paul, I've got one more question.
Yep.
For those watching at home, they haven't been affected by crime. For those that are watching that maybe lost a son last weekend in a shooting where 16 people were shot in Southeast Houston, what can they expect? What kind of support can they expect from the Texas Crime Victims United group?
Great question. So a thing that we just don't have the capacity to do right now is to provide direct service to people. Some people have reached out and they said, hey, you know, we have an unsolved case. There are many of us up here who have unsolved, unclosed cases. So we're not pretending to be that. But we have a couple of key issues that we want to put out there. One, we have a legislative agenda. Two, we want to have a strong stance on local concerns when it comes to things like judges. We haven't gotten on this, but I know down the pipe we're going to probably start becoming more interested in how our county funds things around law enforcement in our jail system, because those are by law things that the county has to do. So those are things we will be doing. I wish we could do more, but right now we just don't have the capability of doing that. All right, with that, I think we're going to be hanging around for a minute. So I really thank you guys for being here today. Greatly appreciate it. And one more round of applause for our great volunteers.
All right, Hood News peeps. Look, friends, media was invited out here today. Media was invited. I only see myself and Univision out there. Media, shame on y'all. I don't know what stories y'all are out there covering, but this was given to everybody with lots of time in advance. And yeah, please, next one, please come out. We need everybody. Nobody is, excluded from crime. All right, friends, reporting live is your girl Grizzy. Back to you.